Good morning, members of the media. Thank you for coming. As you can see, I'm joined here with my colleagues so that you, members of the press, can ask any questions about this year's throne speech, or indeed for any item before government at this time. But first, before I do, I would like to make a few remarks about the aims of the throne speech, which I'm sure you all know outlines government's legislative agenda for the year ahead. The speech makes it very clear that Bermuda is a work in progress. Building a society that meets the needs and that empowers people to make the most of their lives will take some time. The government can't do everything at once, and this is especially true given the constraints of the soaring deficit and the debt that we inherited in 2012. And so, rightly, we've had to prioritize, deciding what activities can do the most good for the most people. Our first order of business as a government was to do whatever we could to turn around the economy. We focused on that because obviously economic turnaround held the potential to help more people more quickly than anything else. And we've made significant progress since that time, restoring confidence in Bermuda and its future. The economy is growing and finally starting to grow after years of decline and stagnation. Economic indicators are showing that what we are doing is what we should be doing, and that the Great Recession is finally over. What they don't say, and what we know to be true, is that we still have a long way to go. Too many people continue to struggle. Too many people are not yet part of the recovery, and it is for these people that we continue to work. The underlying focus of this year's throne speech then continues to be the policies of recovery and hope that we put in place, completing the economic turnaround that we were elected to bring about. And so, we will push for shovels in the ground in St. George's early in 2016. We will push for resorts developments to proceed at Ariel Sands and at Morgan's Point, and we will continue our preparations for the America's Cup in 2017. We will continue to maintain and grow the international business sector because its beneficial impact on Bermudian businesses and workers across the board. And we will proceed with the work to restore the balance to the country's finances, helping Bermuda to get out of the mess reflected in the Auditor General's reports just tabled in the House of Assembly last Friday. In regards to these reports, this is a situation that will clearly take generations to correct. But this government has a responsibility to stabilize the situation now as best we can. And we have a duty to ease the burden on future generations of Bermudians not yet born. Parallel to all of this work, the government will continue to bring forward an array of progressive measures to improve the quality of life for all Bermudians. Social support programs that have helped individuals and families weather the recession will continue. There will be an expansion of human rights protections. We will pilot initiatives to ensure that care and protection of our senior citizens and for persons with severe disabilities continues. We will protect and nurture the interests of children in the home, at school, and across the island. We will continue with measures to make your government more accountable, more open, and more transparent. We will take measures to protect people in our ever-expanding lives online and to restructure our energy future to make sure it is reliable, secure, and affordable. We will do whatever is necessary to continue the positive trends in public safety, and we will grow democratic participation through absentee balloting. Members of the media, people of Bermuda, as I close my comments, there is still much more to make Bermuda work better for all our people. We are fully committed to the task, and we are confident we will progress the interests of this country in a tough and uncertain environment. We are an optimistic government. We believe in the future, and in this speech, it represents our commitment to restore the good fortune to the people of Bermuda. Having made those comments, we're happy to take all your questions. We're delighted to have the opportunity to take them.
On the issue of absentee ballots, the feedback we've received is one of praise from most people. However, some wondering why government is just focusing on students and not ordinary working Bermudians living overseas. what was the thinking behind this pledge to allow people to vote?
Thank you for that comment. I'll turn it over to Minister Fay.
Thank you. We have done an awful lot of policy work in respect of that particular issue. The issue comes down to who's ordinarily resident in Bermuda, and if someone has in fact moved overseas and is living and working abroad, you have to then ask the question as to where they're actually residing. That would then lead to issues of which constituencies people would vote in. So we think the most appropriate way at this stage is to focus on the students who are still ordinarily resident in Bermuda, but they're overseas for study.
That connects those two, or will he look at those along with everybody else and say we can't afford it?
Well, Brian, it seems that you have a spy in the cabinet here. Because that is the continuing debate that we have and the continuing challenge that we have. I cannot foreshadow what's going to be in the February's budget, but I think the things that I really would like to highlight at this point is that we are making progress in reducing the deficit. We've had some reasonable success in the first half of this year. Our whole budget procedures and monitoring of spending is at a much more rigorous level than it has been in years gone by, and that will continue. We are looking at tax reform. We'll see what comes out of that. And some of those ideas and concepts will be present in the upcoming budget. But this is an ongoing process. We have great challenges in reducing this deficit so that we can begin to start paying off this debt. The elements are now starting to align for us. Most importantly, it's impossible for government revenues to grow, for our deficit to reduce, if the economy isn't growing. So we now have some economic growth, and that economic growth, of course, is a prerequisite for job growth. It doesn't happen at the same time, but you have to have that economic growth so that there will be job growth. So we're optimistic that those stars are starting to align, and eventually we'll get ourselves back to an even keel, both in terms of job creation and in terms of deficit reduction.
Thank you. My second question.
Oh, that was just the first question. Okay. I was hoping to answer the second question with the first question, but anyway.
You're going to form a parliamentary management commission to administer the affairs of the legislature independent of government. Is that an idea put in your head by the British?
No. I'll deal with that one.
All right.
That comes from the House of Assembly. Obviously, at the present time, the House of Assembly runs independent of the arm of government, but it is funded by government. The House has a desire to become more autonomous in itself, and so there was a report that was tabled some time ago with many recommendations about improving the operations of the House. So that is included in the throne speech to allow us to continue to work with all members of the House to improve the function and the way it is directed going forward. So nothing sinister to it whatsoever. That insert was given from the House, and we're happy to include it in there. Obviously, we spent a lot of time in the House. All the important legislation is debated and passed in the House, and we here, as politicians on both sides of the House, we quite often hear where you can make a more efficient use of your time, and you can also conduct yourself in a more appropriate way. It's something that all of us in the government benches have talked about and worked towards. We want to be as responsible as we can with the people we serve, and so the work of the House has to be put in the forefront, and we have to try to improve it as we go forward. We have one of the oldest parliaments in the world, and change is in the right way is always good. So we're happy to work with the House to do that.
A lot about sort of barrage of accidents on the roads, but details are quite light in the throne speech about measures. Could you talk on that, John?
Minister Crock.
Thank you. The government remains committed to ensuring that we advance initiatives which would create a safer environment on our roads. We're very pleased, however, to work in collaboration with the Bermuda Police Service, who have implemented their road safety strategy. And we recently heard from Inspector Cardell that the statistics are looking very good. If you look at all of the collisions, they are down in every category. And as you know, the road fatalities for this year are also down. So we want to encourage Bermudians to continue to be safe on the roads. So we will continue to support the police. We are still committed to implementing the roadside sobriety testing. We're working with the police again to create the right methodology. And we expect that next year we can implement that as well. So we're going in the right direction. We're very pleased that we're seeing the trending going in the positive way.
And the speed cameras?
They're also on the agenda, a bit more technical. So again, we've had some dialogue with the Bermuda Police, not as high on the agenda as the roadside sobriety, but we believe that we are going in the right direction, and so we want to continue to support the police in their efforts.
Great. One more question.
Sure.
Any news on the airlines from Bermuda to the UK?
We are in good talks with our incumbent partners as well as new airline companies. We hope to be able to have good news in relation to new airlines coming to the island, but those discussions are still ongoing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Yes, for the Premier. Premier, in this speech you pledged to deal with conscription. I recall you saying it last year, that we dealt with it last year's session. Why hasn't it been dealt with?
Because it's a work in progress. Quite often in throne speeches, they're very ambitious agendas. This one here is perhaps one of the most ambitious agendas we've seen for some time. And the Defense Act will come forward in this session. Made that commitment to do it, and it's very close, so people will just have to hold on. What I will say is that we've made tremendous strides over the past couple of years. We've seen that the number of people conscripted has actually fallen drastically. And I look forward to that trend to continue for the January camp that starts. I have to commend the Bermuda Regiment and the Colonel for the work that they've taken. You know, it's a rewarding experience to get involved in service. The regiment has changed their approach to a lot of things. There's excitement in signing up and being part of that. And so through all of that promotion by the regiment to change the focus from just telling people show up on this date and this time and do what you have to do, it has changed to now to where we emphasize the excitement that's involved, something you could learn, and people are taking those experiences and what they've learned to greater heights in their employment, in their private life. And so conscription is one element of it that will come, but people should join up in the regiment. It's an experience that will remain with you for the rest of your life. So we're still working on it, Troy.
The medical council, where they regulate medical practitioners, there's a suggestion here that you're not satisfied with the standards at the present time. Is that true?
No, I don't think that that's the impression that we wanted to create. I think what we wanted to recognize is the fact that over time, some of the regulations by which the medical council was operating needed to be updated. The act is old, and therefore lots of changes have taken place in other countries, and we want to turn around and make sure those things happen in Bermuda. So that's not the impression that I was dissatisfied.
Secondly, there's no mention of the environment in the throne speech at all. Climate change, all these things that are going on in our lives, have they been put aside for the time being?
No, I think what you will find is the fact that we didn't want to overpromise and underdeliver. We have lots of things still going on within the ministry, and those things will come out over time. But definitely, we still have that on our agenda.
In your election platform, nothing mentioned in this throne speech.
We do mention the economic turnaround and that we are making progress and that we still have a lot of work to be done. We'll continue to work very hard to do that. You know, we don't... Specifics? Well, let me just finish my comments by saying this. We don't dwell on we try not to dwell on the seriousness of the challenge that we faced from the start, but we've made progress. You've seen just in today's paper over the weekend that BTC is creating an opportunity for 14 people to join their service and to learn about that part of technology. Government can lay the foundation to create the jobs. And as the Minister of Finance alluded to earlier in his comments, I think there's a new breed of business that takes place. In previous recessions, As soon as people feel a little bit of confidence, as soon as there's a bit of wind in the sails, they hire people automatically. But this last recession was prolonged and very severe. And businesses found a way to adapt and do what was appropriate to survive. The last thing they're going to do is create jobs until they feel entirely confident that they can move forward on there. There's a different model of all business being structured nowadays. And we're going to keep working with them to create the job opportunity. And as you have seen, Tarai, in stats that released, the unemployment rate is falling, not as fast as we would like. We are creating the foundation for that opportunity throughout the island. We'll continue to do that. The projects we mentioned in the throne speech, with the hotel in the east end of the island, the developments from Morgan's Point and all in between, those will create jobs and opportunities. It's our job as a government to allow them to move forward as quickly as possible, but in the right and sustainable way, and we'll continue to do that. We can continue to be measured by the comments we make in the past, and we are delivering on those promises.
Yourself and some ministers about same-sex issues, and I know you've got consultations, reviews, reports underway, but there was no direct reference to it in the throne speech. Could you explain why?
Sure.
Yes, absolutely. You will be aware that it was the middle part of the year at which time I was given a petition to consider whether we could have same-sex marriage legislation offered. And I promised at that time we would consider it very carefully. The first steps in that was to actually have research done and then have public consultation to disseminate the results of the research. That has been done. We left a website open until the end of October for people to make submissions over and above that which they were able to share during the consultation process. So that's ongoing, and this is a subject that is emotive and certainly not one that we would want to rush through in any way, shape, or form. So we have analyzed the results of the submissions, and we have prepared a preliminary report. All of that will be ready for discussion and dissemination and further consultation. So you will see more action, but it's not something that we would have raced. And certainly from the time that we received the initial petition and a subsequent 6,000 signature petition, there certainly was not ample opportunity to have that included in the throne speech. I believe it would have been irresponsible to try to race it, to have it included for, within a month.
Thank you. As we wrap that up, let me just state that I want to publicly thank all my colleagues for the work that they've done. Standing up and representing people is a real service and a commitment, and we took over in a very difficult time. So all of us really value the opportunity to serve, and I want to say thank you to everyone for their work they've done. This is a very demanding job, and all of us expect answers. So thank you, colleagues, for the work you do. We have a very strong team that is putting Bermuda back on that path to recovery. So we're very grateful to have such a strong team working with you. Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Appreciate it.